All right, let's do this. We're going deep today, folks, into Paradise Lost by John Milton. We've got the whole thing, all 12 books right here. And let me tell you, this poem takes us on a journey, folks. Heaven, hell, the whole shebang.
Paradise Lost is, well, it's so much more than just Adam and Eve. Milton takes that story, that classic story, and he uses it to explore some of just the biggest questions, good and evil, free will, what it means to be human.
Yeah, no kidding. So, book one, we open up, and right off the bat, Milton hits us with those lines about man's first disobedience. You just know something huge is about to go down.
Yeah, he lays it all out right there in the first few lines. The stakes are set, the fall of man. But he also does something really clever. He calls upon the muse, the heavenly muse, right there in the beginning.
Oh, yeah. Divine inspiration, right?
Exactly. Even a genius like Milton needed a little help from above to tell this story.
Makes sense. So then, bam, we're in hell with Satan
Yeah.
and his crew, the fallen angels, and Milton doesn't hold back. Satan's this, massive figure, but he's also broken,
Wow.
scarred. You can see the fall from grace all over him.
It's interesting, though, right? Because Satan's not just some dumb monster. He's smart, he's charismatic. There's even this weird kind of, I don't know, a twisted nobility about him.
Yeah.
And that famous line, better to reign in hell than serve in heaven. It tells you everything you need to know. He's defiant, ambitious, but totally consumed by pride.
And then there's hell itself. The way Milton describes it is, it's bone-chilling,
Yeah.
a fire dungeon. But there's this phrase, darkness visible.
Hmm.
That always gets me. It's like the darkness is a physical thing.
Oh, yeah, Milton was a master of language. Those two words together, they capture this oppressive, suffocating feeling. Like, hell's not just fire and brimstone, it's the spiritual emptiness, a separation from God.
Heavy stuff. So we've got Satan, surrounded by his fallen angels. They're stewing in their anger, plotting their revenge against heaven. What happens next in this grand narrative?
Well, in book 2, we're taken to Pandemonium. It's the grand council chamber in hell where the devils all meet up. They're going to figure out their next move.
So picture this, a vast, shadowy hall filled with these fallen angels still radiating this dark majesty. It's like a war room.
Exactly. They're strategizing, arguing, plotting.
But you also see these flashes of, I don't know, maybe it's twisted camaraderie between them.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And this is where Milton really starts exploring the whole nature of evil. Like, are these guys inherently evil, or did they make choices that led them here? Are they driven by pure malice or some messed up idea of freedom and ambition?
Yeah, he doesn't make it easy for us.
No, he wants us to think about it, wrestle with it.
Then he throws in sin and death. These characters, not just concepts, but actual characters, let me tell you, they're terrifying.
They're like, I don't know, like living embodiments of the consequences of disobedience. Sin represents that inner corruption, that turning away from God. And then you've got death, which is the decay and destruction that follows.
And Satan, to get to Earth, he's got to travel through this realm of chaos.
Right.
Talk about a commute.
That journey through chaos, it's symbolic. It's the perilous path he's chosen, further and further from God, into this realm of darkness and uncertainty.
So we've seen the fall, the horrors of hell, all the scheming going on. Then, bam, book 3 hits us with a major shift in perspective.
We're in heaven now. We're seeing things from God's point of view. And here's the kicker, God knows. He knows about Satan's plan to corrupt humanity, but he doesn't stop it.
Hold on. God knows what's going to happen, and he lets it play out. Why?
That's exactly the dilemma Milton is exploring. Free will. God could stop the fall, sure, but then humanity wouldn't have the choice to choose good over evil. Right. And without that choice, real virtue wouldn't mean anything.
Then there's this debate between God and the Son about what's going to happen to humanity. It's like eavesdropping on a cosmic conversation about justice and mercy.
Absolutely. And it foreshadows Christian theology right there in this epic poem. God knows sin is serious, but he also emphasizes that redemption is possible through the Son's sacrifice.
Okay, so finally we get to Paradise, book 4. We meet Adam and Eve in all their, pre-fall glory.
They're innocent, they're full of wonder, they're naked and unashamed and so in love. It's paradise. Beauty and harmony, it's everything it's supposed to be.
But then there's Satan lurking, watching them with this envy,
Yeah.
It's like he wants to find some crack in their happiness, some way to exploit their innocence.
Right. And his envy, it's not just about Adam and Eve, it's about free will. He's furious that they have a choice that he doesn't. He wants to drag them down with him, prove that even in paradise, they can be corrupted.
I always think about that line where Satan first sees Adam and Eve. They're erect and tall, godlike erect. It's like It emphasizes their connection to the divine.
That erect posture, it's symbolic. It's their closeness to God, their reason, their free will. But it hints at their fall, that loss of connection when they disobey.
Okay, book 5. The angel Raphael shows up in paradise. God sent him to warn Adam about the danger coming. It's like a last-ditch effort to save humanity from this disaster.
Raphael's a messenger. He's a guide.
Okay.
He's got to teach Adam about good and evil, about the history of creation, why obedience is so important. He wants to give Adam the knowledge he needs to resist temptation.
He tells Adam about the war in heaven. And that whole story, that's like a story within a story. It's a cosmic flashback episode revealing how Satan and his buddies got kicked out of heaven.
That's a huge warning to Adam. A reminder that even angels can fall, that this cosmic battle between good and evil is real, and it's happening all around them, even in paradise.
All right, buckle up, because book 6 throws us right into that celestial war. Angels versus angels. Swords clashing, the whole heavens are shaking.
It's epic. Milton describes it with such power, such detail. You can practically hear those divine weapons clashing, the ground shaking.
And amidst all the chaos, you've got this one angel, Abdiel. He stays loyal to God, even though he's completely outnumbered.
He's a symbol of pure faith, pure integrity, a little beacon of hope in the middle of this rebellion. He chooses loyalty to God over rebellion, even when it's dangerous.
And the battle goes on, but finally, God's Son leads the forces of good to victory. Satan and his rebels get kicked out. It's a huge turning point in the story.
Right, it establishes God's power, the triumph of good over evil up in heaven. But it also raises a question, right? If Satan's been defeated up there, where is he going to turn his attention next?
Yeah, we know the answer to that one. Earth is about to become the new battleground. But before we get there, in Book 7, Raphael tells Adam about creation.
It's like Milton's take on the book of Genesis, but he brings in all these elements of classical mythology, Renaissance cosmology. His understanding of God's power shines through. It's a breathtaking account of how the world came to be.
Yeah, he describes the creation of light, the separation of the waters, land appearing, finally, humanity being created. It's like seeing the world for the first time. It makes you appreciate the beauty and order of it all.
Milton really emphasizes that. The harmony, the purposefulness of creation, everything has its place, its role. Humans, they have dominion over the natural world. It's a vision of the world as it was supposed to be, good and perfect, made for human happiness.
And then in Book 8, we hear it from Adam. He tells Raphael his version of this story, his creation, his first moments, meeting Eve for the first time.
It's full of wonder and innocence. He talks about how lonely he was before Eve and then that overwhelming joy when he first sees her.
Yeah. It really makes you think about how much we crave connection, even from the very beginning.
Absolutely. Even in paradise, Adam felt that. And God created Eve to fulfill that need. It's beautiful.
So we've journeyed from heaven to hell. We've witnessed the creation of the world, the birth of humanity. And now, well, we're standing right on the edge of the fall. Where does Milton take us next?
Well, Book 9. This is it. This is the big one. The fall. All the tension, the temptation, the deception, it all comes to a head here. And tragedy, of course.
Milton is at his best here.
Mm-hmm.
He shows us Satan's cunning, Eve's vulnerability, and Adam's struggling, all these forces clashing. It's like a psychological drama, you know?
Satan's so clever in the way he tempts Eve. He takes on the form of a serpent. He doesn't come right out and say it. He uses these subtle arguments, this rhetoric. He plants these seeds of doubt in her mind.
It's like he twists God's words around, right? He makes it sound like God's keeping something amazing from them.
Exactly. It's pure manipulation. He makes disobedience sound, well, not just tempting, but almost righteous. And Eve, well, she's innocent. She falls for it. She takes a bite of that forbidden fruit.
It's hard not to feel for her, you know? She's tricked. And she makes this choice that's going to have huge consequences for everyone.
It reminds us that even with good intentions, anyone can be vulnerable to deception. And the consequences, well, they can be enormous.
And then there's Adam. He knows God's command, but eats the fruit too. Why? Is it just because he can't stand to be without Eve?
That's a question people have been asking for centuries. Some say it's love, pure and simple. He can't imagine life without her. Others think he's tempted by that forbidden knowledge too. Those same deceptive promises that got to Eve.
Whatever the reason, their disobedience, it has immediate consequences. They realize they're naked, there's shame, there's guilt, for the first time. And their perfect relationship, it's broken.
This is a fundamental shift for humanity. Innocence lost. The world is changed forever. Sin and death, they enter the picture. Suffering, pain, mortality, it all begins here.
So Book X, the aftermath. The fallout, it hits heaven, it hits earth.
Consequences everywhere. God judges Adam and Eve. They're banished from paradise. Can you imagine that? Cast out of the only home they've ever known into a world that's now messed up because of their actions.
It's a powerful image. Leaving the Garden of Eden, knowing you can never go back to that perfection.
Milton doesn't hold back. He describes it all, their departure. You can feel their sorrow, their loss.
And sin and death, they're not messing around now. They build a bridge from hell to earth, like a physical manifestation of what's
Well,
happened.
it's chilling. It's a symbol. Evil now has a direct path into the world, a way to influence humanity. It shows just how serious this fall really is.
But there's still hope, right? A little glimmer. God promises redemption for humankind through a Messiah.
That promise is crucial. It says, look, humanity has fallen, but there's still a chance for reconciliation with God. It's a flicker of light in the darkness, and you see it running through the rest of the poem.
Book 11, Adam and Eve are wrestling with all this. They have this knowledge of good and evil now. They're full of regret, remorse. They've lost so much.
Milton is brilliant at showing the psychological and emotional impact of the fall. They carry this guilt, this shame. They understand the weight of their disobedience, all the suffering it's going to cause.
But God, he sends the angel Michael to Adam, and Michael gives him visions of the future.
These visions, they span from Noah to the coming of Christ. It's like a preview of human history, all laid out. The triumphs, the tragedies, it's all there.
So it's not all doom and gloom. There's this sense of history unfolding, of humanity's potential for both good and bad.
Exactly. Humanity has stumbled, but the story isn't over. There's still hope for redemption, for progress. Good can still triumph over evil. That's the message, a message of hope in this tragic story.
Book 12, the last part of our journey, Adam and Eve leaving paradise, going into this unknown world. It's poignant, sad, but there's that glimmer of hope.
It's real. Milton doesn't sugarcoat it. Adam and Eve are out of paradise. They have to deal with this new world, a world with sin and death, all the challenges that come with that. But they also have that promise of redemption, and they know they're not alone.
The last lines of the book always stick with me. They, hand in hand, with wandering steps and slow, through Eden took their solitary way. Such a powerful image, isn't it? Sadness, but also resilience.
It captures it perfectly, those complex emotions, the sorrow for what's lost, but that hope for the future. That even in a fallen world, beauty, love, redemption, they're still possible.
Then there's that line, Adam to Eve, right before they leave. A paradise within thee, happier far. Wow, what a line. What do you think Milton's saying there?
It's about inner peace. True paradise, it's not a place, it's a state of mind. That connection with God, you can have it anywhere, even in a fallen world. Inner peace, fulfillment, you can still find them, even when things are tough. You know, it's amazing what Milton does in Paradise Lost. It's truly epic. Heaven, hell, earth, he covers it all. And those big questions, the themes, they still resonate, even after all this time.
Yeah, he throws in everything. Theology, philosophy, history, mythology, it's all woven together. And at the center, you've got this timeless story. Humanity and its struggle with good and evil, our choices and their consequences. That search for meaning in a world that, well, that doesn't always make sense.
And he doesn't give us easy answers. It's not just black and white. He wants us to think about the gray areas. Human nature is complicated, right? He wants us to question what we think we know about God, the universe, everything.
Even Satan, he's the villain, sure, but there are these moments where you see how complex he is.
Yeah.
You almost feel a little bit bad for him, even though he's caused so much destruction.
That's what makes Milton so good. The characters, they're not just stereotypes. Even the fallen angels, they have intelligence, reason. There's this twisted nobility about them. It shows how seductive evil can be, how it can hide behind something that seems good, even righteous.
And the language. It's incredible. Those images, the metaphors, the beauty of his words. There's nothing else like it.
Milton was a master. He had such a command of the English language, and his knowledge of classical literature, mythology, he brings it all in.
Yeah.
And the result is this poem that's both intellectually stimulating and emotionally powerful. It makes you want to spend time with it, to go back and read it again and again.
It's not a light read, that's for sure. Paradise Lost, it's dense, it's challenging. You have to be willing to put in the effort, but it's worth it.
Absolutely. This isn't a poem you can just skim. You have to dive in. But when you do, it changes you. It challenges your beliefs, makes you think about human nature in new ways. It leaves you with this sense of awe.
So, for someone listening to us, taking this deep dive into Paradise Lost with us, what would you say is the takeaway? What does Milton want us to walk away with?
I think the biggest takeaway is hope. The world is flawed, we mess up, we face hardship, but hope is always there. That's what Paradise Lost is about, at its core. It's about redemption, humanity rising above its failures. Even in darkness, there's still a chance for grace, for forgiveness.
That idea of finding a paradise within, that really sticks with me. True happiness, it's not about the outside world, it's about our inner state, our connection with the divine, choosing good even when the world around us feels broken.
Yeah, and if you think about it in terms of our own lives, it's a powerful message of resilience. We're going to face challenges, we're going to stumble, we're going to fall, but we're not defined by our failures. We can always learn, we can grow, and we can move towards something better.
So if you're listening and you haven't read Paradise Lost yet, I can't recommend it enough. It's a journey, it's challenging, but it's worth it. And as always, we say this all the time, don't take our word for it. Go read it yourself, wrestle with the ideas, come to your own conclusions.
I'll leave you with this. The very end of the poem, Adam and Eve are walking away from paradise, but they're walking hand in hand. Their future is uncertain, but they're facing it together. I think there's a powerful message in that. Unity, shared purpose. That's how we find the strength to keep going, even when things are tough.